Hey guys, this is SpicyBoi Comics coming at you with a new review for Hawkman number 6. This book is written by Robert Venditti with art by Bryan Hitch, and jumping right into this book, this is part 6 of a 6-part storyline that's been going on for the first story arc of this book. And to summarize what's been going on, basically, Hawkman is trying to remember all these past lives he's had, and in order to do that, he's been going back through all these different iterations of himself throughout history. There's been a Kryptonian version of him, and now he's sort of in the microverse. And he's doing all this to stop this race of beings called the Deathbringers, who are trying to destroy the Earth. That's the basic plot. So getting right into the pros and cons of this story, the best thing about this series so far, I think, just the series in general, is how this book has tried to really organize Hawkman's past, kind of folding in all the different Hawkman stories into one cohesive narrative. Hawkman's a very complicated character, to say the least. He's had a very long history with many different iterations, trying to tell different stories, and just a whole mess of retcons and reboots and a lot of things that have made his character kind of confusing, especially to new readers. So a really high strong point of this series so far has been Venditti's ability to not only take old Hawkman history and lore and fold it in an organized and easy to understand manner, but he's also gone above and beyond by introducing even more iterations of Hawkman, which should make it more complicated, but it's all in service of the story. It makes it more interesting and even more fun to follow along with. Another thing that's really stand out about this book is just the great fast pacing. It's sparse dialogue, but that's what I like. It doesn't get too waxing poetic. It's just strong characterization, especially the friendship between the Atom and Hawkman. That's like a highlight of this whole book, but especially these last 2 issues where the Atom's shown up. You really get why these characters are friends. They have some great banter back and forth. It's simple, but it's effective. You know, it doesn't need to be too deep or intellectual for you to get behind these 2 characters, which is really, really great. And on the point of pacing, just everything about the dialogue in general, it's short and to the point. It's got this excellent use of these narration boxes with Hawkman that give you a look into his point of view, and it really allows you to get into his head and lets us better understand and empathize, with this character, Hawkman, which is great because before this book, I was familiar with Hawkman. I was aware of him through stuff like the Justice League cartoon, and a few other things. I had seen him around, but I'd always heard oh dude, Hawkman, Chief, that boy has got some history to figure out. So I was I was afraid to get into this book, but I saw Robert Venditti's name. I really enjoyed his run on the Green Lantern core comic he did recently, and jumping right into this book from issue 1, I was never confused, and this is someone who's never read Hawkman ever. Maybe he's shown up in a Justice League comic occasionally, but as a first-time reader of Hawkman, I can safely say this is one of my favorite books from DC right now. And Hawkman's quickly rising up the list on my personal list of favorite characters. Honestly, he's in my top 20 for sure. I'm really, really digging this character, and that's all thanks to Venditti's excellent characterization of this guy. So as far as cons go, Bryan Hitch's art, it's good. I'll say that. It's good, especially this. I think this is my favorite image of this series, or maybe not the whole series. I'll have to go back, but definitely this issue. Just this giant expositional shot, this establishing shot, rather, of Hawkman looking at the ship. He's been looking for this big pile of nth metal, which is the metal that makes up his mace and his wings. It's this powerful, mystical metal. And he thinks it's just sort of a hunk of it or a pile of it down in this asteroid, but it's really a ship that he left here in a past life, and now he's rediscovering it. Really great, fun stuff. That was a bit of a tangent, but the art itself, again, not bad. I will say every couple of issues, there are a few panels where I kind of had to do a double take to make sure I didn't miss something. So Hawkman finds the ship, he gets into the cockpit, and you see this little apparatus here. I didn't know what this was because it doesn't show him getting into the ship to pilot it yet. And I didn't realize this was this weird... He stands chest first and with his arms spread out in this little thing to pilot the ship. But it doesn't show him actually piloting it until this panel. And so the way the cockpit isn't completely drawn in on the top, it has sort of this open exposure to it. I didn't know what was happening at first. It looked like Hawkman was like jumping out of the ship, or he was like flying without his wings. I thought it was like an art mistake. I really didn't know what was happening because they didn't establish before that this is how he flies the ship. And so I kind of had to like go back and be like, wait, did he exit the ship? No, it's this thing. I don't know. That's like a minor. It's a minor thing. And like once you go back and be like, oh, I see, he's standing, and you see the metal around him, like that makes sense. Also, the way Hawkman's feet are drawn, like kind of touching Adam's stomach, it looks like Hawkman just drop kicking him WWE style, like down the ship's hull. But that didn't confuse me. I didn't think that. I thought it was funny. It kind of looked like that. I understood he's like just like teleporting into the ship. It's a minor thing. It's not a big deal. His art's good too. Like it's not bad at all. You got some good facial expressions here. It's really good with the action. Bryan Hitch is really a solid master of action and getting the characters into good positions to show dynamic fight sequences. So I guess right now I can go into the conclusion of this book, which is like, you know, the basic thing I wanted to get across, which is like the spice, the pure prime spice of this comic. Well, no surprise for a Hawkman story. It's Hawkman, the titular character. And so what this book does the best, I think, out of everything it does great, which is a lot of things as I've listed, is how the writer really gets into Hawkman's head and gives us this view of his heroic persona and just these little moments in his narration boxes. Nothing too complex, nothing like, none of this broad philosophical thought, but something simple like this. There's something intangible about friendship, unquantifiable. When someone is your true friend, they become a part of you. Their courage, their heart, their character. It's never easy to say farewell. But wherever you go, you carry them with you. That's cool. I really like that. And it's so simple, too. Like, you don't need to think on it too much. There's no weird waxing poetic. I just like how Venditti, like, trusts his audience to understand the point he's trying to get across. There's none of this, like, I don't know, there's no condescension. I feel like some writers, when they're trying to do, like, this deep, core, philosophical characterization stuff, they get really, really high and mighty and, like, fifth-level intellect with it, and it starts to lose me. But, like, he doesn't do that. He trusts his audience, you know, he doesn't need to be condescending, and certainly not pretentious, which is, I think, almost worse than being condescending, is if you come off as pretentious. If you just go on and on about trying to understand, like, the core value of friendship is like a chemical trigger in the brain, and it's when you see somebody that you believe in and trust and find all these, like, they'll just go on and on. I've seen that in plenty of books, but not this book, which is good. It's good. That's a strong point of this book. And then, you know, we got a little setup for the next issue, which is like this other Hawk person, and he's headed for Earth, and oh boy, what's Hawkman gonna do? And we'll get there. You know, that'll be the next issue. That's a review for another day. So, in conclusion, this book is basically like kind of Indiana Jones-esque, I think, especially since they established Hawkman is doing some archaeology-based stuff. You know, he's like going around finding all these artifacts and clues into his past. So it's like this Indiana Jones-esque mystery plus exploration plus really fun, awesome action set pieces combined with Robert Venditti's. He has this palpable sense of like fun, and it just makes for a can't miss story, honestly. There's plenty to offer here for someone like looking for strong, relatable heroes in their books. That's basically the review. If you've never read a Hawkman book like I haven't, like, jump in. Now's the time. This is a good time to be a Hawkman fan, and honestly, it's probably in my top 5 DC books right now. Like, it's that good. You guys should really give this book a chance. And if you haven't picked up these issues, I'm sure the trade will be out soon since this is the last issue of this story arc. And if not, issue 7 will be out in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, guys, that's the review. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'd like to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for sticking around for this review. It means the world to me. And hopefully I'll see you in the next review, which should be for Flash numbers 58 and 59. It will be a double review. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Later.